WWE Evolution. Man, what a show that ended up being. We got a lot of stuff to discuss about the show, from the attendance to the reception of the show to the things that actually happened in the show. But let me be honest, it was WWE's best show of the year, easily. They went 7 for 7 on great matches, and they gave us a twist and a surprise at the end. I gotta say, that's exactly what I asked for. So why am I not super excited? Well, let's get into why I'm not all that excited. But let's start from the beginning. The show did about 8,000 people. According to WrestleTix, there was a huge surge within the last couple of days of about 1,000 tickets, maybe 1,500 tickets. Now, a lot of people think that, WrestleTix is BS and that they obviously were hiding the real numbers. But it's also quite obvious that ticket prices came down the closer they got to the show, and more people probably bought tickets. So that's more than likely. But it didn't do what the 2018 show did. The 2018 show did 10,000 tickets and was considered a failure. This one did 8,000 tickets and considered a success. I'm not so sure it's a success if it sold less tickets than the one previous. But the energy around this show was much, much better going into the show. And I'm going to go through the show in order because that tells the story of the show much better this time. So we started right out of the box with an absolutely tremendous triple threat match. Becky Lynch defeats Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Really good match to open the show. I mean, the crowd was alive. They got a standing ovation before the match even started. Lyra Valkyria came in. She started throwing suplex combos and such. This ends with a fisherman suplex, and Bayley comes off the top rope with an elbow drop. It looks pretty nasty, like she could have broken Lyra Valkyria's neck. Of course, great timing by Lyra to move. A flying double leg drop by Lyra Valkyria. And it wasn't just that Bayley and Becky Lynch were sitting in position waiting for it. They were actually tussling. They were going back and forth on something, and she just happened to interrupt them with the flying leg drop. That's timing, that's psychology, that's good placement. Then Bayley hit the belly to belly. Lyra Valkyria broke it up. Lyra Valkyria hit Nightwing, and Bayley broke it up. Bayley and Becky did a really good job tearing into each other here, coming across as two veterans that are sick of each other, showing a great deal of passion. There was a question about whether Jonathan Coachman was right about Bayley. Is she still washed? And look, I think he was mostly talking about Bayley's booking and how the crowd wasn't really that behind her. But I think things have changed. At least on this night, the crowd was really behind Bayley. And it came across like Bayley was going to win. She actually hit the rose plant on Lyra Valkyria, which is one of her finishers. And as she rolled up Lyra to pin her, Becky Lynch dived in with a backslide and actually stole the pin. Absolutely tremendous finish here. Excellent contest. They did a really good job. These women's triple threat matches are pretty good, and they have no reason to be. As much as I'm not a fan of triple threats, because of what I'm going to discuss later, this one was really good. I gotta say, this one was good. Next, Jacy Jayne defeated Jordynne Grace to retain the NXT Women's Championship. This match was probably the match I was most impressed by, because the crowd was extremely hot for the first match, but you got three great workers in that match. Lyra Valkyria is not much on personality, but she's good in the ring. And Bayley's been over for years, and Becky's been over for years. She was a top star for years, so obviously the crowd was going to be excited for that. I didn't expect the crowd to stay hot for Jacy Jayne and Jordynne Grace, but my goodness, they did. And Jacy Jayne put on a hell of a performance. Jordynne Grace is tremendous. She's one of the best in the world. This was mostly is Jacy Jayne going to fuck it up kind of situations, and she didn't. The story of the match is that Jordynne Grace teamed up with Mariah May the night before a Great American Bash. She asked Mariah May to be in her corner for this match, and Mariah May thought about it and then agreed to do it. So Mariah May is in the corner of Jordynne Grace. The counteract, Fatal Influence, was in the corner of Jacy Jayne. And pretty much everybody kind of saw the heel turn coming at this point. But people held out hope. During the match, you had Jordynne Grace hit some really big moves on Jacy Jayne. A package powerbomb, where she actually carried her from the corner to the ring, in the middle of the ring. A very funky suplex that was a counter of a Jacy Jayne pump kick. I thought that was really cool. Jacy Jayne hit a couple of sweet moves herself, and she hung in there. Really doing a good job with her striking and her aggression. Really showing that this is the stage that she should be on. After hitting a couple of really big moves and Jordynne Grace kicked out of them, she finally got frustrated. This was a good 10 to 15 minutes in at this point. So she's not cheating immediately. She's trying to hang in there. And that's sort of the story of the match is Jacy Jayne's trying to do it the right way. She's just trying to show that she's championship material. But Jordynne Grace will not stay down. So Fallon Henley retrieves the championship belt on order from Jacy Jayne. And they're going to hit Jordynne Grace with the title. That's the idea. But Mariah May stops this. She takes down Fallon Henley. She takes down Jasmine Nix. Fallon Henley then returns. She distracts the ref. Fallon Henley, while she has the referee, Jasmine Nix gets the belt again. And then Mariah May tackles Jasmine Nix and picks up the belt herself. There's an Irish whip, which is countered by Jacy Jayne, and Mariah May hits Jordynne Grace in the back with the championship belt. From there, Jacy Jayne hits the roaring elbow. 1, 2, 3. Jacy Jayne defeated Jordynne Grace. Tremendous. And that was a very stiff rolling elbow as well. Great finish. Jacy Jayne wins. Mariah May gets in the ring. Shows no guilt whatsoever over what she just did to Jordynne Grace. Hands the championship to Jacy Jayne. Jacy Jayne's a little perplexed. Doesn't really care though because she won. And Mariah May leaves. Now, she hasn't been around long enough for this heel turn to really hit. And then also, the way that the heel turn was done was a little... it was a little weird. I think you could have done something just as effective if she'd have just yanked Jordynne Grace's leg. Like, if she'd have yanked Jordynne Grace's leg and she took a face bump and then turned around and was like, what the hell? And then when she turned back around, Jacy Jayne nailed her. That would have been pretty much the same thing. But the belt shot didn't look like it would have done a whole lot of damage to Jordynne Grace, especially if you look at her back. She's shaped like goddamn Donkey Kong. I don't think that little love tap she got hit with that belt would have done much. But they're now telling the story. They are taking Jordynne Grace and they're taking Mariah May and they're taking them in a different direction. So that's the feud going forward. That's probably the right move. Now Jacy Jayne's going to go and wrestle Masha Slamovich at Slammiversary. I kind of had a feeling about that they would change this once I saw that Jacy Jayne got pinned at the Great American Bash. Now, of course, this could set up in the future Mariah May wrestling for the NXT Women's title because she did help Jacy Jayne. So there's something there. There's a lot of storyline potential here. But this was definitely the best Jacy Jayne match ever. You know, Jordynne Grace is actually very good. The heel turn, we gotta let it simmer a little bit. But I think it was the right move creatively. Just the way that they did it could have been a little bit better. The execution could have been better. The third match, the Fatal 4-Way for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez defeat Sol Ruca and Zarya, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, and the Kabuki Warriors Asuka and Kairi Sane. This was a very good match. The crowd was extremely hot for Charlotte. They were being sweethearts all night, but they were especially sweet on Charlotte. That Players Tribune article that everybody read has gotten everybody on board with Charlotte being a babyface. So she came in sort of as a house of fire, as they say, beating up everybody, knocking everybody down. Asuka came in afterwards and cut loose with a bunch of German suplexes. They tried to do some Kabuki Warriors tandem offense, like, spinning back kicks and kicks and stuff like that, but Kairi's timing was really off. This has been a major issue, even going back to the Zoe Stark injury, even before that, maybe even back in 2020 or 2021. Kairi's timing in WWE is very, very weird. She always is a second or two late about something. I'm not sure if it's a language barrier, because Asuka is always on time and Io is fantastic, so it can't be language. Is it that she doesn't remember the spots? Is she a little bit skittish? I don't understand what's going on. She's normally a very good wrestler, but then she'll get in there and she'll get lost. And you think she's supposed to be doing something, she'll be out of position, and that's a timing issue. And it happened quite a bit here too, where she was off on the Kabuki Warriors tandem offense, and it was obviously a Kairi issue, where she was out of position. Charlotte took the Soul Snatcher from Sol Ruka, which is pretty cool. The finishing stretch shows Charlotte Flair save Alexa Bliss from a spear from Zarya, only for Sol Ruka to get speared. Raquel Rodriguez then hits a power bomb on Alexa Bliss, where she picked her up and threw her outside the ring for her to get caught by a crowd of people. And the finish was Raquel Rodriguez pinning Sol Ruka with a Tahana bomb, which was actually very cool. I'll say this. Raquel Rodriguez was being criticized by Kevin Nash for not working big enough. And she took that criticism to heart, even though she said something that was very funny about Kevin Nash paving the way for them. Like, Kevin Nash. She's very respectful. Again, another sweetheart. But she actually did what Kevin Nash asked in this match. She worked big. She went in there. She took physical control of everybody she touched. She was body slamming whoever she wanted, clotheslining people. Her clotheslines looked really good. It was a lot like what she was doing in NXT, which is what I said was the best version of Raquel Rodriguez, when she was basically a wrecking ball. She was selling too much. She was giving away too much. Here, she actually took from people. And everybody got their shit in. Everybody looked pretty good. Obviously, the star of the show was Charlotte. How over she was tremendous. And Sol Ruka walked away probably with a lot more fans than she walked in with, even though she got pinned. So Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez won the match. Right decision. All right, match 4. Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus. This one was really good. Trish Stratus is almost 50 years old. She'll be 50 years old in about 4 months. And she went out there and she had an absolute cooker with Tiffany Stratton. Really good basics at the beginning, where Tiffany Stratton got to show some athleticism. Trish, at her advanced age, actually tricked Tiffany Stratton and gave her a head scissors at one point after an exchange. And that led to Tiffany being a lot more aggressive. Now it seemed like she was turning heel in the match. Now she's working as the heel in the match. They end up outside on the ring apron, where Trish Stratus does a head scissor and pulls Tiffany Stratton to the floor. Great bump on the floor, which was crazy. Later, Tiffany Stratton lands a swanton bomb, and boy, was that thing stiff. That was a stiff swanton bomb. Oh my goodness. She then also lands an end of heartache, which is Roderick Strong's finisher move, which is the suplex into the knees. That was crazy. I can't believe Tiffany Stratton broke that joint out. This girl used her time at the PC wisely, okay? She went out and found some moves nobody else were doing in WWE, and she broke them out on this show on Trish Stratus. That was crazy. Tiffany ended up getting caught in a Stratus faction, which is, the springboard bulldog. And Tiffany kicked out, which was a pretty good near fall. Ultimately, Trish Stratus fell short to the prettiest moonsault ever. And Tiffany Stratton won the match. Really, really good match. A really good glimpse of Tiffany Stratton in NXT. Obviously, she was so much better in NXT because she had more time to put matches together. And on the main roster, she was still having fairly good matches, but then some of her matches will fall apart. With certain opponents, things wasn't working out, like the thing with Charlotte didn't really work out. But this clicked, Trish knew how to work with Tiffany. Apparently, they were just on the same page. Tiffany figured out that her role is as the heel, and working babyface really only works with Nia Jax. But you see what she can do when she's working with somebody who wants to work with her. And that goes to show that Charlotte wasn't really all that interested in working with her, because Tiffany Stratton looked like a champion here. She looked really good. And this was a really good match. Trish, despite being the underdog, had some pretty good hope spots. And she was competitive. She didn't just go in there and get beat up. She was competitive with Tiffany. She hung in there with Tiffany. She gave as good as she got. And she fell short. She even hit the chick kick at one point. But she just fell short. She got a standing ovation after the match. And Trish went to each corner. She didn't officially retire, but on commentary, there was a lot of discussion about whether this was going to be Trish's last match or not. Even though, again, she didn't officially retire. But the crowd loved it. I loved it. I think, hey, if Trish got another one in her, let's run this one back. I like the idea of doing this thing again. Next, Jade Cargill defeated Naomi in the no-holds-barred match with the special guest referee, Bianca Belair. Let me tell you this straight up. Bianca didn't do anything in this match. The point of her being the referee was just for her to be out there for the Evolution show. She did nothing in either way, except, near the middle, she started, it looked like, okay, we're about to do something, but nothing happened. There was a lot of plunder in this match, a lot of weapons and chairs and stuff. It suffers from the same issue as all weapons matches. Like, I think Naomi got punched in the face with a chain. Like Jade wrapped a chain around her hand and punched Naomi in the face. Like, okay, that's ridiculous. She hit her in the stomach with a camera. She tried to smash Naomi with a toolbox that she threw from inside the ring out. This was crazy. Jade took a couple of weird bumps right there in the middle. And Bianca was very, very concerned about her, asking her if she was okay. Showing some level of favoritism that I thought was going to lead to something. It didn't, though. Then we got a long heat stretch where Naomi had full control and she was actually dominating Jade. Bianca was kind of talking to Naomi about this, and Naomi was grinding Jade's eye on the corner of the table leg. She had thrown her outside in the ring through a table. She was really just kicking Jade's ass at this point. So Naomi starts being Bob the Builder. She put Jade on the table, put the chairs on top of her, and she's going to do like a moonsault or whatever off the top of the rope onto Jade while she's on this table. Jade recovers, hits Naomi in the back with a chair, does Jaded off the second rope, through the table, 1, 2, 3. Jade Cargill wins the match. That's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Jade Cargill won. I don't know if this is the blow off to the feud or not, but that's it. We're done here. The match was better than I would have expected it to be, and it was worked about the same as I expected it. Jade Cargill sold a lot, really let Naomi lead her around. And Naomi, because she likes Jade, gave Jade some really good stuff here. And Jade executed. She didn't look weird at all or awkward at all. It all worked out. And Bianca didn't have to do anything. I wish they would have done something with that story. considering they went through all the trouble of bringing Bianca out there, for her to just play it straight down the middle and not pick a side was very weird. Then why was she out there? She could have just been a regular referee at this point. But having Jade Cargill be Superwoman, who takes all this punishment and comes back at the end, that's what you want to see. You want to see Jade Cargill get taken down for a bit and her to get up off the mat and take it to her opponent and win. That's what you want to see. So Jade Cargill wins. Right decision made. All right, so there was a battle royal. This ended up being just a parade of entrances. Everybody got a great response. When Zelina Vega and Ivy Nile got responses, you know that the crowd is being sweethearts all night. Zelina Vega's placard said United States champion. So somebody don't even watch the shows, especially since Julia came out later with the belt. They don't even watch the shows. Speaking of not watching the shows, Michael Cole kept calling Candice LeRae Candice Michelle. He did it no short of 4 times. He did it at least 4 times. He kept referring to that girl as Candice Michelle. He had Candice Michelle on his mind, man. She ain't been there in years and she on his mind. Hallelujah. You know what kind of impression you got to make on a man if he just says the word Candice and he think of nothing but you? Lord have mercy. All right, anyway. Nia Jax threw out Tatum Paxley almost immediately. And then Izzy Dane followed shortly thereafter. And then she threw out Kalani Jordan, but Kalani Jordan didn't hit the floor. Instead, she did the Kofi spot where she walked on her hands and climbed back in the ring. That was nice. The crowd didn't really seem to care about it, but I thought it was cool. Zelina Vega ended up eliminating Julia, which of course means that their feud is going to continue. We ended up getting with a final 4 of Nia Jax, Stephanie Vaquer, Lash Legend, and Nikki Bella. I thought for a second Nikki Bella might win, and then she got tossed out by Lash Legend, and I was like, oh, that was great. Then Lash Legend picked up Nia Jax and placed her over the top rope. From there, Stephanie Vaquer and Lash Legend worked together to get Nia Jax up out of there, leading to Stephanie Vaquer and Lash Legend being the last 2. Stephanie Vaquer gets Lash Legend over the top rope with her legs kind of like Benoit in the Royal Rumble. And then she does the devil's kiss on the ring apron, which is the second time she did it in the match. And Stephanie Vaquer kicks Lash Legend outside the ring to win the contest. So now she gets the championship match at Clash of Paris. I expect it fully for Stephanie Vaquer to win this match, so this was not a surprise to me. I was kind of bummed out that there were no big surprises in the Battle Royal. There was no legends or anything like that. There was just NXT talent, but maybe that was the right decision. I don't know. You know, maybe focusing on the future. I think that Evolution could be a show where you focus on the past, present, and the future. But a lot of people have said, you don't really need none of the old ladies. Maybe you don't, but it's still nice to have them, you know. And I think maybe 1 or 2 would have been nice here. You know, maybe a little bit more than that, especially if you're just going to throw Paxley and Izzy Dame out immediately. You could at least gave, you know, some somewhat older woman a shot at the crown. Jesus Christ. But Nikki Bella did a really good job of putting this show over. And she didn't win, which was the right decision for her not to win. So Stephanie Vaquer, she had to cut a winner's promo. But first, Stephanie McMahon got in the ring. And Stephanie McMahon was speaking Spanish to Stephanie Vaquer. Now, this was very, very funny for obvious reasons. If you've ever seen the Stephanie McMahon meme with her when she was like a young lady, much younger woman, even though Stephanie looks the same, she hasn't aged that much. The whole Spanish thing really, it popped the hell out of me when she was speaking Spanish. I gotta tell you, just that alone was funny. Stephanie Vaquer says that English isn't her first language, but wrestling is, and that you're going to know her name forever by the time she's done. So, Stephanie Vaquer, again, right decision. Nothing wrong with this. The Battle Royal was fun, but it was pretty obvious certain people were just filler in the match. and that nothing of note really happened. And the Battle Royal itself was kind of, it was a fun match, but it wasn't like the best match possible. I think it being the co-main event actually led people to think it was going to be bigger than it really was. Now let's get to this main event here. Io Sky, Rhea Ripley. At this point, they're 6 for 6 in terms of fun matches and good matches. And this one was a given. Everybody knew this match was going to be good. Everybody knew it. There was no question. I don't think we were prepared for how good this match was going to be. And they went longer and they went more over the top than I would have possibly expected. And that ended up actually not being a good thing. All right, so let's get into this. Now, they start out with, the respect. Io's too fast for Rhea. She's just running circles around her. The crowd actually gives Rhea some difficulty as Io does, as she mocks Io's head point. Io does some Shohei uppercuts, but they look terrible because she's too small. And those uppercuts look extremely light. And then we get into things that were a little over the top. Rhea Ripley hits a razor's edge on Io Sky that I think should have put her through the ring. I mean, it was just incredibly impactful. It was one hell of a razor's edge. And then she follows it up immediately with a Batista bomb that was equally violent. And I'm not just talking about she just chucked her, or she literally drove Io Sky into the mat 2 straight times and only got a 2 count. Like, that's nasty work right there. Io tries a springboard drop kick and ends up with a ref bump, because every main event has to have a ref bump. I swear we don't need ref bumps in every wrestling main event. We really don't. We don't need run-ins in every wrestling main event. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, Rhea Ripley hits the Riptide. It's only a visual pin because the referee is down. No referee appears from this point forward. Usually as soon as the referee goes down, we're waiting for a new ref to come in. But that doesn't happen. So Rhea Ripley is extremely frustrated. She's pissed off because she had Io beat. And then the referee went down. So then she starts dragging Io through the crowd. And she's beating her through the crowd. Got her all tied up in the barricade, punching her in the head, headbutting her, throwing her head against the barricade. At this point, Io is limp. Like she's just being beat to shit. Really good visual here. Rhea has decided she's going to murder Io Sky. So she drags her over to a stack of boxes. And she's going to powerbomb her off this stack of boxes onto the floor. But Io, of course, fights off, throws Rhea's head into the boxes. Rhea falls off the stack. Io stands atop the stack of boxes, like 20 feet in the air. And she does a crossbody off the stack of boxes. So now she's got control of the match. She's throwing Rhea around, takes Rhea back to the ringside area. It hits her with a sunset bomb on the floor, over the moonsault in the middle of the ring, well, near the middle of the ring. The original referee gets back in the ring. Only a 2 count. The crowd is going nuts at this point. Absolutely crazy. And then Naomi's theme song plays, and she runs out there with a referee. She cashes in her Money in the Bank briefcase, hits Rhea Ripley in the head with the briefcase. Then she hits a couple of moves on Io Sky, the split leg moonsault, and Naomi is the women's world champion. The crowd is extremely happy. They're throwing babies in the air. Everybody's very happy for Naomi. And I said this match was about 30 minutes, thereabouts. It was a good 25 minutes. And you gypped us out of the finish. You screwed us out of the finish of this match. Why would I invest so much time in this match and I don't get to see who's going to fucking win it? Oh, they swerved us by putting the belt on Naomi. Okay, but out of all the times you decided to swerve people, you waited until 30 minutes, until after we've had to watch this hellacious contest and we want to see who's going to win it. And then people didn't boo that we don't get to see who wins it. They cheered. It only incentivized you to do it more. The whole point of this match, and this is why Triple H did this, was the story going in was that Rhea Ripley has never beaten Io Sky, and this match is going to answer the question about whether she can beat Io Sky. And she had Io beat at one point with the Riptide, but there was no referee. And then, she had survived the over the moonsault, and it looks like she was going to get an opportunity to fight out of this thing when Naomi showed up. So we don't get to see who's the better woman. Obviously, you kick the can down the road. Maybe you end up with Rhea versus Naomi in Perth, because they're going to do a takeover of Australia soon, and that's when Rhea gets the belt back. And then you kick this match, Io and Rhea, to WrestleMania or something like that. But for me, I'm invested now in seeing the two people that have been fighting. I want to see who is going to win the fight. You don't take Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and then suddenly just dump fucking Ken Norton in the middle of the fight. Like, what? Like 12 rounds of this, and now we're going to throw Ken Norton in the middle. Like, what? Why would you do that shit? Why would you do that? If you were going to book this to have a Money in the Bank cash in, then guess what you should have done? You should have done the cash in before they did all this stuff outside the ring. When the ref went down from the drop kick and Rhea had hit the Riptide, then Naomi should have come in with her own referee and hit Rhea Ripley in the head with the briefcase, because now you got a clear story told. You've had your match. Io has been hit with the Riptide, so she's down, and then you can hit her with the moonsault or whatever and pin her, and I still would have been like, that's bullshit. But once you have taken us to they're jumping off 20-foot things and fighting all outside the ring, okay, I need to see how this is going to end between these two women. I want to see all the character development that they've been doing with Rhea Ripley in terms of her being frustrated in this match with Io, trying to figure Io out. I want to see how that plays out. You copped out by doing the Money in the Bank cash in. This was a way of, well, now Rhea doesn't have to take a pinfall. She can not be champion without losing. This is bullshit. All right. Am I happy that Naomi is the champion? Yes. Obviously, me and everybody else thought that Naomi was going to cash in on Tiffany Stratton. We all thought that would have made a lot of sense for Naomi to defend the title against Jade Cargill. That would have made sense, especially since she just lost to Jade Cargill. But it seems that Triple H has decided that she is going to defend it against Stephanie Vaquer in Paris. All right, but what about SummerSlam? Right? Like, what are we doing for Naomi at SummerSlam then? And what are you going to do with Rhea and Io now? Or are we stuck in triple threat hell? Because now these people have to have a triple threat match at SummerSlam. Okay, so then what about Bianca? What is she going to do? Now, this stuff is nonsensical as far as I'm concerned, man. It's the worst possible option in terms of putting the belt on Naomi, because you had a match that everybody wants to see the finish to, and then you decide to jerk everybody by throwing the belt on a third party. Come on, man. Give us the fight that we wanted. This is the one time we could have asked you to play it straight, and you throw the curveball. And people are like, well, Triple H, you criticize Triple H for taking it too easy. Now he's doing a twist and you're complaining about the twist. It's like, we are upset that Triple H is playing it safe. This was a safe option because now Rhea didn't lose. And she also didn't win. So you dodged the criticism of putting Rhea Ripley in this match by saying, whoops, we gave it to somebody else instead. Oh, okay, but we didn't answer the question. Nobody has been proven to be better than Rhea Ripley, so we're stuck in the same position. She gets another title shot. This is the same weird situation we was in earlier this year, where she lost the belt to Io Sky, and through sheer willpower and Rhea Ripley-dom, she ended up in a triple threat match at WrestleMania. So now we're in the same situation again, where she didn't lose one-on-one. She got jerked out of the championship. And now she gets to get back in line to be champion again. This is ridiculous, man. At some point, you have to actually have people beat other people without fucking run-ins. And that's really what frustrates me the most. That's what really got me pissed off the most, is that this was a match in which there was not going to be a run-in. And we still had a ref bump and a fucking run-in. Why? Why? Why is every wrestling pay-per-view now fucking ref bumps and run-ins? Why? It's so boring, man. This needs to be a moratorium on this shit. Somebody's got to put their foot down and say enough. I'm not even mad. At first, I was like, I'm over the Money in the Bank thing. Like, this kind of ruined it. And then I was like, well, it's not really the Money in the Bank problem. Because we see it with John Cena, we saw it with the Bloodline, we saw it with the Death Riders. We're seeing it all over the place now. This is a lazy booker's strategy of, I want to protect my top guys, so there's going to be tons of run-ins and ref bumps. And that does nothing but train the audience that these fights are not real fights between two of the best people in the world. You're never going to see who's the better person, who is going to win and who is going to lose. You're going to see chicanery all the time, skullduggery all the time. And the worst thing about this is it doesn't get heat. People cheer the run-ins. That's ridiculous. This was tailor-made to get a negative reaction because you had this great match that this other person just shows up and steals the win, and you don't respect that ultimately because that person didn't go through 30 minutes of hell and get powerbombed twice in a row and, jump off a 20-foot blah, blah, blah. That's when you're supposed to say this person doesn't deserve it. Therefore, you boo them. No, because everybody likes Naomi and everybody sees this as, she did a really good job of reinventing herself. Everybody's like, yeah, I think this is great. Naomi's the champion. That's amazing. I wasn't expecting that. It's like, in storyline, that's not how these things work. In kayfabe, you can't just be like, well, I know the bad guy swooped in and won, but that was a surprise. I like that. I'm going to cheer this. No. Come on, man. In no realm of reality does that make sense. If you're watching Superman, right, and Superman's in there with, I don't know, Lex Luthor, let's say, and then some third party, let's say a dog, just shows up and completely beats up Lex Luthor, is that what you wanted to see? That ain't what I wanted to see. That ain't what I came to see. I came to see Superman and Lex Luthor. I didn't come to see this fucking dog. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like, it steals from both the hero and the villain when you have third parties just swoop in. Like, say you're watching Superman and Superman's fighting a giant monster, and then all of a sudden a bunch of other motherfuckers just come in and you're like, what the hell is these people? Where they come from? And then they beat the monster and Superman's just kind of standing there like, thanks. What the fuck? I didn't come to see these other people. I came to see Superman fight the fucking monster, not this guy. Who the fuck is this guy? Why is he even here? That's the same situation we have here. Except it's even worse because both people in this situation were baby faces. So we had the heel, the villain, come and beat one of the baby faces, and we all cheered that the heel beat the babyface, stole the babyface's championship, and took off. And instead of being upset by that, we were happy about it. No. This is a narrative failure. Look, they had a really classic match going too. It was like, people have asked me before, what matches do you think is a classic, like a 5-star? This was it, right? Because there was a lot happening, but they hadn't gone super over the top yet. You know, I think each one of them had gotten one finisher. There was not like a bunch of finishers being stacked on top of each other. Outside of the power bombs, where I think Rhea was excessive, she put some real stank on them joints. I didn't think that Io had taken anything that I was like, all right, that's unbelievable, right? But the Razor's Edge and the powerbomb thing, I was like, yeah, that's kind of excessive. And the opposite way too. I didn't think that, Io had put Rhea Ripley in the blender, and it was getting to the point where I'm just like, she's unbeatable, she's unkillable. Both did a really good job of looking vulnerable, and I wanted to see which one of them was finally going to give out. And I was gypped of that. I was robbed of that. And I think other people should express that we were robbed of the finish to this match. So now we have to wait again to see who's the better woman in this situation. And it's completely unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. Now, I get it. Hey, if you love the match this time, you'll love it the next time too. Yeah, maybe. But I don't have infinite time to invest in these storylines, right? But Naomi's being the champion is obviously the right decision. She's worked very, very hard. She's done a really great job of reinventing herself and doing a really great job with the character. So her being world champion, and I think most people kind of knew she was cashing in the Money in the Bank on this show. So that turned out to be fine. So they swerved us with Naomi. Okay, I'm going to give Triple H some credit for swerving us and doing a successful job of it and not pissing people off. People were actually happy about it, so that's good. And I think it was a great capstone to the show, actually, because people wanted to see something different. Again, status quo had to change, and it did. Now, Io's run as champion has been pretty terrible because she's been champion since WrestleMania, but she's probably only had like a handful of title matches. She's only had like a handful of matches in general, which is becoming a running theme in WWE, where you become a champion and then they put you in the closet and you never defend it. You maybe defend it once a month, maybe once every 2 months, and then that's it. You lose the title on your third title defense 3 months into your championship run. And it's like, yay, this happened to the Street Profits. Like the Street Profits run was the exact same thing. They got almost no storylines. Io Sky had no storyline. Her match with Rhea Ripley was because she challenged Rhea Ripley for the match. That was it. So this whole thing is not necessarily the best booking, but it all worked out in the end because the girls worked extremely hard. So Evolution, easily the best WWE show of the year. They went 7 for 7 on really good matches. They gave us a really great twist. They had the past there sitting at ringside. The Vicky Guerrero pop was nuts. Okay, a lot of people hate Vicky Guerrero because of the situation that involved. I think is it Kylan, the girl who says that she was SA'd by her stepfather, and Vicky didn't believe her, and she was going to sue her daughter. This was a whole real nasty situation. And Vicky still got a monstrous reaction on the show. Nobody seemed to give a shit. WWE also did a tribute, and the Fabulous Moolah was in the tribute, but China wasn't. You notice that people noticed that, right? So folks were very upset that Fabulous Moolah was featured in this and China wasn't. But China was mentioned in the montage at the beginning of the show, so there was plenty of China in that. Here's the thing. I think you can't erase history. And if people knew that Fabulous Moolah is literally the person who brought women's wrestling to the WWF. Now, she didn't get wrestling unbanned in New York. That was somebody else. But when it came to wrestling in Madison Square Garden, Moolah was the first one. It was Moolah's championship that became the WWF Women's Championship. You can't really excise her from the WWF history, even if you don't like her for whatever reason. And even if whether the stories are true or not, they are what they are. Now, I do understand your frustration about taking China out, because that's a lot of the Triple H hates China, or he wants to avoid talking about China at all possible. I get that, absolutely. But they did put her in the montage at the beginning of the show, so it's like somebody did recognize that it was a mistake made and they fixed it as much as they possibly could. I don't think you can change history. So China should have been there, and so should Amula. I mean, you got Leilani Kai and Jazz and Jacqueline and all of these women sitting in the crowd. You had a couple of men in the crowd too, like Mark Henry. Like, why was he there? Oh yeah, speaking of sitting in the crowd, Kelly apparently was asked to come sit in the crowd, and she declined. She didn't think that it was an appropriate way for her to return to WWE. She should have rethought that, because this version of WWE doesn't rely. I know Goldberg just main evented a Saturday Night's main event, but they don't necessarily always go back to nostalgia as much as Vince did. Vince was way more into the history and the nostalgia and stuff like that, and trying to get people interested in the past as well as the future. But Triple H seems to focus mostly on the people that's around right now. He doesn't really focus that much on the future either. If you look at how he treated a lot of NXT talent in that Battle Royal, you could tell that he wasn't really all that focused on the future, even though Lash Legend got a pretty good rub. So I can't beat him up too much about that. And before I leave this, I don't want people to think that my criticism of Naomi winning the championship, because I'm a supporter of Naomi personally. I think the circumstances were probably not ideal. That's what I'm saying. And I knew going into the show, because I've been talking about this for weeks and weeks, that Naomi was probably going to cash in her Money in the Bank either on this show or at SummerSlam. So I'm not surprised that they cashed in the Money in the Bank. I'm surprised that they cashed it in on that main event, when that main event was going as hard as it was going. All right? That main event was going hard. And then all of a sudden, boom, we did this. It was a little jarring, and I don't like it. So, outside of that, this was a very phenomenal show. Best WWE show all year. Much better than WrestleMania. WrestleMania was trash. Okay? But we need no more ref bumps, no more run-ins for the rest of the year. I'm talking AEW and WWE. No more ref bumps in main events. And no more run-ins for the rest of the year. Because as hard as Io and Rhea was, I'm actually partial to Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton, because the match was in the ring, they worked it great, and there was a clear winner and a clear loser, and that was it. That's all it needed to be. Now, obviously that was different because Trish is Trish and she's as old as she is, but that's what I wanted for this main event too. So anyway, Evolution, great show. I don't know if they stole the weekend. Some people are going to say they didn't, but there's a lot of good stuff on this show. I absolutely will be watching this show again. I have a lot of feelings that other people will too. They're going to be reliving this show. Some real good stuff happened here. I know people are asking whether Triple H is going to make Evolution a yearly event. Well, he didn't want to do a second one. There is this belief that Triple H was pushing for Evolution and Vince didn't want to do it, even though Triple H was in control for 2 or 3 years before we got another Evolution show. He did not seem thrilled when he was asked if there's going to be an Evolution 3, and why not just make it a yearly event. He didn't look thrilled. He wasn't excited saying, well, yeah, let's do it. He was just kind of like, yeah, well, we'll see. That should tell you what his thoughts are on this whole thing. I, on the other hand, I'm ambivalent about it. The thing is, I don't have strong feelings one way or the other about whether there should be a women's only show or not. In my view, if I watch the show and it's a women's only show and it's a good show, then I don't care. Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, they just had a women's only show. It was pretty solid, you know, just like all the other episodes of Reality of Wrestling, it was pretty solid. So if you have a shitty women's division, then you're going to have a shitty women's show. WWE has a pretty strong women's division. The problem of that is the women are fighting for real estate with the men, and the men are generally more interesting. So you don't get a lot of the women on the product normally. So for some people, this is the first time they've ever seen JC Jane, because they don't watch NXT, even though NXT is a very women's heavy show. They don't really see her a lot. It might have been their first time really being introduced to Jordynne Grace. First time they've ever seen Sol Ruca, Jada Parker, and Lash Legend, and all of them. So because of that, you might want to make this a yearly event so that at least some of these women can get a spotlight on them specifically. And if you can get women's specific sponsorship, like they ended up with that Maybelline thing this year, then why not do it? I don't see a problem with it. Most people watch everything anyway, you know? So whether it's a women's only show or a men's only show, people want to watch good wrestling. And if you make it good, nobody's going to complain. So I think instead of attacking Triple H and trying to force his hand on the issue, force him to be a better booker of Raw and SmackDown. Because then you get to see these women all the time anyway. You know? The reason why we don't get so much awesome shit, because he don't put any effort into booking them. He would have never let Io and Rhea run that long on a regular WWE pay-per-view. He never would have let them do it that long. So that's one of the benefits of having a women's only show. But I don't think too much about this stuff. I'll leave that up to you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this show, what you think about Evolution being a yearly event, and anything else. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
No one does it better.